Alien girl gives human an ancient key, but human finds the key fits his own past. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's return to our main character. The old research outpost drifted in the shadow of a giant gas planet, its broken solar panels creaking every time Ethan Cole's salvage ship locked another magnetic clamp into place. The temperature inside the docking ring barely held above freezing. His visor fogged at the edges as he stepped through the airlock, boots scraping across metal dust that hadn't been disturbed in decades. A low hum pulsed somewhere behind the walls, like a heartbeat that shouldn't exist in an abandoned place. Ethan adjusted the wrist display on his suit. Oxygen reserve, good. Internal pressure, stable. Nerves, less so. He told himself it was just another salvage run, but the empty hall ahead felt too familiar. The same dim emergency strips, the same chemical smell, the same hollow echo his childhood nightmares always carried. He pushed the memory away and kept walking. A job was a job, yet there was one thing he couldn't push away. The small, battered Earth-made key clipped to the inside of his chest pocket. He'd found it when he was 9, buried under the rubble of the fire that took his old home. Nobody ever figured out what door it belonged to. He kept it anyway. Its weight was the closest thing to the past he still had. His flashlight cut through drifting dust as he moved deeper inside. Instruments lined the walls, their gauges long dead, their screens cracked like old ice. Then something flickered ahead, a faint glow, steady and pale, coming from the central chamber. Ethan slowed. The glow wasn't the warm hue of human lights. It was cool, almost silver blue, like moonlight channeled through crystal. When he stepped into the chamber, he froze. A girl stood near a floating console, her silhouette slim, her skin shimmering in soft shades of blue and silver. She wasn't human, no mistaking the faint luminescence. In her hair, the gentle ripple of light along her arms as she breathed. She turned toward him, calm, as if she had expected him. Before he could speak, she lifted her hand and revealed an object resting on her palm. A key, clear as glass, etched with patterns older than any star map he'd seen, and shaped exactly like the one in his pocket. His breath caught. It wasn't possible, yet his heart knew otherwise. She stepped closer, her voice quiet, steady, carrying a tone that felt both ancient and strangely kind. "Ethan Cole," she said, as if his name were a truth she'd held for years. "I was told to give this to the human who carries its twin." His hand instinctively touched his pocket. The metal key inside felt suddenly warm, as if answering something. He didn't know her. He didn't know this place. But the moment the silver blue light touched the old key through his suit, a tremor went through him. Recognition without memory, a door opening somewhere in his mind, yet not fully. He swallowed hard. "Who are you?" She held the glowing key out to him, her expression soft but unshaken. "My name is Lyra," she said, "and this belongs to your past. One you were never allowed to remember." The words struck him deeper than he expected. Past. Remember. Allowed. The air felt thin. The outpost seemed to tilt, the faint hum in the walls syncing with his heartbeat. And for the first time in years, Ethan Cole wasn't afraid of what he might find. He was afraid of what he already knew. For a moment Ethan did not move. The key in Lyra's palm glowed softly, casting silver light across the chamber and catching on the dust in the air like floating sparks. His old metal key felt heavier in his pocket, as if answering a call he had never heard before. Lyra watched him with steady eyes, not urging, not pressuring, simply waiting. That calm unnerved him more than alarms or shadows ever could. He stepped closer, slow and careful, boots brushing against the grated floor. His suit sensors clicked as they adjusted to the faint energy in the room. The readings did not frighten him, but the familiarity did. He looked at the consoles surrounding them. Their symbols curved like handwriting from a language he did not know. Yet something in him recognized the shapes, the rhythm, the way the lines curled toward the center as if inviting him in. "How do you know my name?" he asked quietly. His voice felt small in the large chamber, swallowed by the hum under their feet. Lyra lowered her gaze to the glowing key. I was told you would come. That a human carrying the twin key would find this place. Her tone held no mystery for the sake of drama. She said it like a fact she had lived with for years. Ethan shook his head lightly. I did not even know I would come here. I took the job last minute. A soft shimmer moved across her skin, like light sliding over water. Some paths do not need your permission before they start. He almost laughed, but the weight inside his chest stopped him. The key kept glowing. His fingers twitched. He did not touch it. Not yet. Instead, he looked past her to the central column, where faint silver lines pulsed like a slow heartbeat. A part of the outpost still lived. The glow reflected in Lyra's eyes as she followed his stare. This station was left unfinished, she said. Your people built it with guidance from mine. It was meant to store memories that were too painful or too important to lose. Ethan frowned. Earth never said anything about that. Not everything stays in the light, she replied gently. Her words stirred something in him, something from years ago. A burning room. Smoke pressing down like a hand. A voice calling his name. Then nothing. The memory flickered out as quickly as it came. Ethan took a steady breath and finally reached for the key in his pocket. The cold metal warmed instantly against his palm. He held it beside Lyra's crystalline one. The match was undeniable. Same length. Same teeth. Same imperfections. Even the slight curve near the base. Why does yours look new? He murmured. Because it has not lived the life yours has lived, she answered. Something in her voice softened, almost like sympathy. Your key carries weight. Keys remember the hands that hold them. Yours has held grief for a very long time. Ethan swallowed, unsure how to respond. His throat felt tight. The chamber lights dimmed slightly as the outpost shifted, metal settling with a gentle groan. Lyra stepped back, giving him space. There is a door in this outpost that only responds to both keys together, she said. It contains what was taken from you. Taken. The word echoed through him, steady and quiet, yet heavy enough to stir the dust in the corners of his mind. Ethan looked at the two keys resting side by side in his hands. For years he had lived with a hole inside him he could never explain. Now the shape of that hole felt painfully clear, and the key fit it perfectly. I do not understand how something can be taken from me if I do not remember losing it, Ethan said, his voice low but steady. The two keys rested against each other in his hands, one warm metal, one cool crystal, their shapes aligning so precisely that it felt almost intentional, as if they were designed to meet again. Lyra took a slow breath, her expression gentle as the soft light in the chamber brushed across her features. Some memories fade because time pulls them away, she said. Others fade because someone pushes them away. Ethan felt a subtle shift in the air, a sensation like a room exhaling. His tongue felt dry. He clipped the old key back inside his suit pocket, but the crystal one remained in his hand, light as glass, yet somehow heavier than truth. Show me this door, he said. Lyra nodded and moved toward a corridor that curved around the central chamber. The ambient lights brightened in response to her presence, recognizing her the same way the key had recognized him. Ethan followed, boots thudding softly against the metal walkway. He kept his eyes forward, but his mind kept drifting back to that faint flicker of a childhood memory. A warm voice calling. Then silence. The hallway opened into a narrow bridge suspended over a circular shaft. Energy pulsed below in soft ripples, lighting the underside of the walkway like reflections off a calm lake. Ethan glanced down and quickly looked away. Heights he could handle. Unknown depths were another story. Lyra paused at the far end of the bridge where a circular door stood flush with the wall. Its surface was smooth and unmarked except for a narrow vertical slot in the center, just wide enough for a key. It did not look like a human-made mechanism. It looked older, deliberate, almost ceremonial. This is it, she said. Quietly. Ethan lifted the crystal key. And what happens when it opens? She hesitated, and that alone made his pulse quicken. It will reveal what was stored inside. Memory is not always gentle, Ethan. It can return as softly as a whisper or as sharply as a storm. Ethan pressed his lips together. But it will be the truth. Yes. He took a small step forward. The air near the door felt cooler, as if it had been waiting for years without being touched. The slot began to glow faintly the moment the crystal key neared it, responding like a beacon hearing its name. Ethan stopped just short of inserting it. Lyra, he said without turning. What if I am not ready for what is behind this? She stepped closer but kept a respectful distance, her voice soft. Not being ready does not mean you are not meant to know. He let out a slow breath. The tension in his shoulders loosened, not because he felt confident, but because running from the past felt heavier than facing it. He raised the key again. The glow intensified, casting pale reflections across his visor. Then, quietly, he withdrew the key. Lyra looked at him, surprised but not judgmental. Not yet, Ethan said. I need to understand why this place exists before I open anything. Someone built all of this for a reason. And whoever that someone is, they wanted me here. The hum of the outpost deepened, almost like agreement. Lyra tilted her head slightly, her silver blue eyes softening. Then we will learn it together, she said. Ethan nodded, feeling for the first time that the outpost was not just a ruin or a relic. It was a message, and he was finally learning how to read it. The circular door remained closed, its quiet glow fading as Ethan lowered the crystal key. He slipped it into the side compartment of his suit, careful as if placing it into a pocket of memory rather than metal. The outpost around them hummed with a low, steady rhythm, responding to his hesitation with something that almost resembled patience. Lyra watched him for a moment, then turned her gaze to the long bridge behind them. If you wish to understand why this place exists, she said, we should begin where your people once worked side by side with mine. Ethan adjusted the strap on his glove and nodded. Lead the way. They moved back across the narrow bridge. The faint ripples of energy below continued their slow, looping patterns, reflecting off the underside of the walkway like light moving across deep water. Ethan kept his steps even, eyes forward, trying not to think about the door behind him or the question it held. The corridor beyond the central chamber expanded into a wide atrium. Screens covered the walls, dark now, coated in a thin layer of dust. But the consoles beneath them were clean, untouched, almost as if someone had come through recently. Lyra stopped beside a workbench. A small panel embedded in the surface sensed her presence and flickered to life, projecting a soft blue hologram above the metal. Ethan stepped closer. The hologram displayed a rotating symbol, part geometric, part organic, like an intricate knot of lines merging into a single point. Ethan tilted his head. What is that? Lyra traced the edges of the hologram with her fingers, not touching it, but guiding its movement. This outpost was designed as a memory archive, she said. Your scientists called it Project Hearthline. My people called it something else. She paused, letting the light shift across her face. The place where lost things are carried home. Ethan exhaled slowly. Something about that name pressed gently against the inside of his chest. Why would Earth build something like this? He asked. And why here? Lyra looked toward the ceiling as if listening to something just beyond hearing range. Because this region was quiet, she said. A safe distance from populated systems. It allowed both our species to work without fear of interference. She turned back to the projection. Memories that were damaged, incomplete, or removed could be placed here for safekeeping. Ethan frowned. Removed? Why would anyone remove a memory? Lyra met his eyes, her expression soft but unwavering. Sometimes memories are taken to protect the person who lived them. Other times, they are taken to protect those who do not want the truth revealed. Ethan felt a slow tightening in his chest. Is that what happened to me? She did not look away. I believe so. The hologram shifted again, expanding into a map of the outpost. Ethan leaned in, studying the layout. Multiple wings branched outward from the central chamber, each labeled in symbols he could not read. One wing glowed faintly. Lyra touched its outline. This section was dedicated to cross-species neural research, she said. The team believed that memories could be safely transferred across minds if handled with care. Ethan blinked, thrown. Transferred. Not permanently, Lyra clarified. Shared. Reviewed. Preserved. Your people had begun to create a catalog of rescued experiences. Ethan stepped back from the map. His voice came out quieter than before. Why would I be connected to any of this? I was just a child when the fire happened. Lyra took a small step closer. Children remember deeply, Ethan, even when they are told they should forget. He felt the floor steady beneath his feet, but something inside him shifted. Questions rose faster than answers. He rubbed his thumb against the inside of his glove, grounding himself in the familiar texture. If this place stored memories, he said slowly, then the door reacts because something of mine was stored behind it. Lyra nodded. Yes, and someone wanted it kept safe until you were ready. Ethan let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. The hum of the outpost grew a little louder, like an echo rising from far below. He looked at the glowing wing on the holographic map. Then let us find out who that someone was. Lyra gave a gentle, approving nod. We will. And together, they followed the path illuminated on the map, deeper into the quiet heart of the outpost, where truth waited with the patience of a locked door and the shape of a key he had carried since childhood. The deeper Ethan and Lyra moved into the glowing wing of the outpost, the quieter everything became. It was not the silence of abandonment. It was the silence of intention, the kind that felt like a room holding its breath. The lights along the floor brightened with each step they took, responding to their presence with soft pulses that echoed the gentle rhythm beneath the metal panels. Ethan kept his pace steady, but his mind raced in looping circles. A memory archive. Cross-species research. A door that recognized him. None of it fit the life he remembered, yet all of it felt uncomfortably right, as if he had been walking toward this place for years without knowing it. Lyra stopped at a narrow passage where the walls curved inward, forming an archway. Symbols etched into the metal glowed with a faint blue shimmer when she lifted her hand close to them. This space was restricted, she said quietly. Only individuals involved in memory care were allowed inside. Ethan let out a slow breath. And I was involved how? Lyra's expression softened. You were not a researcher, Ethan. You were a recipient. The archway recognized her touch and slid open, revealing a circular room no larger than a small bedroom. A single pedestal stood in the center, supporting a transparent sphere filled with swirling strands of pale light. Ethan stepped closer, feeling warmth radiate from the sphere. The strands inside moved like drifting threads in a breeze, shifting in color from silver to soft gold. This is a memory container, Lyra said. It holds a preserved fragment of someone's experience. They called them living echoes. Ethan stared at the sphere. Something about the soft light tugged gently at his chest, familiar in a way he could not explain. Is this mine? He asked. Lyra approached the pedestal and examined the markings along the rim. No, she said softly. This one belonged to someone you knew. Ethan felt his shoulders tense. Who? Lyra traced a finger along a symbol that glowed brighter under her touch. It is a child's imprint, she said. Very young. Very bright. A quiet pressure filled Ethan's lungs. My brother, he whispered before he could stop himself. The sphere pulsed, a ripple of light moving through the strands inside, as if responding to his voice. Ethan stepped closer, drawn to it. If this is his memory, he said, why was it put here? Lyra looked at him, her expression full of something like understanding. To keep it safe, she said. Children remember deeply, but their memories are fragile. If he experienced something that needed protection, this archive could hold it until someone was ready to receive it. Ethan placed his hand slowly on the surface of the sphere. It was warm in the exact way he remembered his brother's hand feeling when they used to sit together on the old porch steps. A soft hum rose under his palm. Light swirled faster inside, shapes forming, not clear enough to see but close enough to sense. A laugh, a small voice, a hand pulling his sleeve. The sensation hit him gently, not overwhelming, but real enough that he drew in a slow, shaky breath. Lyra watched him with quiet patience. It is not opening fully, she said. The container is waiting for something. Ethan pulled his hand back, looking down at his suit. At the pocket where his old Earth-made key rested. It is waiting for me to open the door, he said. Lyra nodded. The living echo will not release its memory until the truth behind that door is unlocked. Ethan looked once more at the swirling light inside the sphere. For the first time since arriving, the outpost did not feel like a relic. It felt like a guardian. He closed his fingers into a fist, steadying his breath. Then we go back, he said. I will open it. Lyra gave a small, quiet nod, and together they stepped out of the room as the sphere's glow dimmed behind them, waiting for their return. They retraced their steps through the glowing corridor, the quiet hum of the outpost following them like a pulse. Ethan walked with more purpose now, though a weight pressed at the center of his chest. The memory sphere had not shown him images, only sensations, but that was enough to awaken something he had locked away for years. A warm laugh. A tiny hand. A promise he once made. Lyra kept pace beside him, her expression calm yet attentive, as if listening to the unspoken tension in his breath. She glanced at him gently. "You felt him," she said. Ethan nodded once. "Not clearly, but enough." "Living echoes respond to what is held in the heart," she said softly. "That is why it reacted to you. It knows where it belongs." Ethan swallowed. The hallway lights glimmered on his visor as they stepped back onto the narrow bridge over the energy shaft. Below them, the shifting blue ripples had grown brighter, as if sensing movement in the archive. Ethan steadied his steps. "I do not know what happened that day," he admitted. "I remember the fire alarm, the heat, then nothing. Everything else is a blur." Lyra's voice softened further. "Sometimes the mind hides what is too heavy to carry alone. Or someone hides it for you." Ethan murmured. She did not deny it. When they reached the central chamber, the circular door stood unchanged, waiting in its quiet glow. Ethan felt the crystal key warm through the fabric of his suit, as if aware of his return. Lyra stepped slightly behind him, not to distance herself, but to give him space. "Ethan," she said, "there is one more thing you must understand before you open it." He turned toward her. The silver blue light reflected in her eyes, giving them a depth he had not noticed before. "The truth held behind this door may not match the story you have lived with. Pain does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it returns in small pieces." Ethan let out a slow breath. "I can handle the truth." Lyra studied him for a moment, then gave a small nod. "Then the door will listen." Ethan stepped forward and withdrew the crystal key from the compartment of his suit. The moment it touched the air, the symbols along the door brightened, lines of pale light weaving outward like delicate threads waking from sleep. He lifted the key toward the slot, hesitated, then lowered it slightly. "Lyra," he said quietly, "why me? Why would anyone build all of this for a child?" Lyra folded her hands gently. "Because your memory was connected to something larger than your family. Something your people and mine once worked to understand. But it is your story. Only you can open it." Ethan inhaled deeply, gathering strength from the steady hum around him. He raised the key again, guiding it toward the slot. Then, just before the crystalline surface touched the metal, a faint tremor shivered through the floor. Ethan paused, glancing down. Was that the outpost? Lyra's eyes lifted toward the ceiling. "No," she whispered. "That was an external shift." The lights along the walls flickered once, then steadied. A quiet, alert tone pulsed through the chamber, soft but unmistakable. Ethan felt his heartbeat quicken. "Something is approaching the station," Lyra said, her voice calm but edged with concern. Ethan closed his fist around the key. "Who else knows about this place?" Lyra met his gaze. "Anyone who wanted these memories to stay hidden." The hum of the outpost deepened, a low vibration that settled into the metal walls. Whatever waited behind the door would have to wait a moment longer. And Ethan suddenly understood that opening the past might not be the only danger waiting for him in the outpost. The alert tone pulsed again, soft but insistent, as if the outpost itself were nudging Ethan to pay attention. He slipped the crystal key back into his suit compartment. The doors glowed, dimming in response. Lyra lifted her hand toward a nearby wall panel, and the metal shimmered open to reveal a narrow display screen. Lines of gentle light scrolled across it, forming patterns Ethan could not read, but she understood instantly. "A vessel has entered the outer perimeter," she said. Her voice was calm, but he heard something beneath it, a quiet weight. Ethan moved closer, studying the shifting lights. "Is it one of yours?" "No," she answered without hesitation. "The energy signature does not match my people's designs." Ethan exhaled slowly. "Could be scavengers." Lyra shook her head. "Scavengers do not come here. They do not know this place exists." Her eyes lifted to meet his. "Someone who knows the archive is here. Someone who knew it would wake." Ethan's pulse quickened. The outpost hummed again, deeper this time, like a drumbeat traveling through the floor. "How long until they reach us?" Lyra studied the display. "A few minutes. The vessel is adjusting its approach carefully. They are searching for an entry point." Ethan ran a hand along the back of his neck, grounding himself. "We need to get back to my ship," he said. "If things go wrong, it is the only way out." He turned toward the corridor, but Lyra did not move. Instead, she looked back at the circular door behind them, her voice dropping to a whisper. Ethan, you have not opened the truth yet. If we leave now, the archive may not let you return. He paused. The weight of that possibility landed squarely in his chest. Before he could respond, the lights overhead flickered again, then stabilized. The hum rose a little higher, a vibration that felt almost like anticipation. Lyra stepped closer, her tone gentle but steady. The outpost responds to you. It woke because you came. Ethan forced his breath into a slow, controlled rhythm. And whoever is out there, he said, might be here because I came too. Lyra's expression softened in understanding. Your presence rippled outward, she said. Some follow those ripples. Ethan turned toward her fully. Lyra, I do not want you in danger because of me. Her silver blue eyes held steady. I was sent to give you the key. That means I was sent to stay until you unlock what you were meant to find. He shook his head. Even if someone is coming to shut all of this down. Lyra clasped her hands in front of her, her voice barely above a whisper. Especially then. The tone on the panel shifted, signaling a new update. Lyra pressed her palm to the screen, and the image changed to a faint outline of a craft moving slowly toward the outpost's docking ring. Ethan felt the air grow cooler around him. They found a latch, he said. They are docking. Lyra stepped back from the panel and turned toward him. If their intention is to prevent what is inside this archive from being revealed, she said quietly, they will begin with the door you were about to open. Ethan looked at the circular door, its soft glow pulsing like a quiet heartbeat. A truth waiting. A memory waiting. His brother waiting. He squared his shoulders. Then we open it before they reach us. Lyra nodded once. A small, steady motion that carried more certainty than words. The outpost's hum deepened again, sensing their resolve. Ethan reached for the crystal key, the cool surface warming instantly in his palm. Across the chamber, soft footsteps echoed from the distant corridor. Whoever had arrived was already inside. Ethan tightened his grip on the key. Lyra, he said quietly, stay behind me. She moved to stand at his side instead. We face this together. And as the steps drew closer, the door before them began to glow brighter, as if calling him to finish what he had started before the past slipped away again. The footsteps in the corridor grew clearer, slow and controlled, as if whoever approached knew exactly where they were going. Ethan tightened his grip on the crystal key, the cool surface warming against his palm. The circular door before him pulsed with a soft silver glow, inviting and urgent at the same time. Lyra stood beside him, her posture calm but alert, her eyes reflecting the shifting light in the chamber. Once you begin, she whispered, the archive will not allow interruption. Ethan nodded. Then I should start before our visitor steps through that doorway. The footsteps paused just beyond the chamber entrance, as if the person on the other side were listening. Ethan inhaled slowly, lifted the key, and aligned it with the glowing slot in the door. The moment the crystal touched the metal, the entire outpost softened its hum, as though the structure itself leaned in to listen. The key slid into place with a quiet click. Light spread outward in concentric rings, gentle and warm, spiraling across the door's surface. Ethan felt a subtle vibration move through his hand, not uncomfortable, more like the sensation of a held breath. Lyra watched the patterns with an expression almost reverent. It recognizes you, she said softly. The rings of light folded inward, and the door eased open, not swinging outward, but dissolving into a cascade of pale illumination. A faint breeze rolled out, carrying the scent of something familiar Ethan could not name. Beyond the doorway lay a small circular chamber, simple and silent. At its center hovered a second container sphere, similar to the one they had seen earlier, but dimmer, as if waiting for permission to wake. Ethan stepped inside. The sphere lifted slightly, sensing him, and a soft glow bloomed within its core. Lyra remained near the entrance, giving him space but keeping him within reach. This one is yours, she said. Ethan approached slowly, his boots whispering against the polished floor. When he placed his hand on the sphere, warmth spread through his palm, gentle and steady, like a memory returning home. Light swirled inside the sphere, forming faint shapes. Not images exactly, but outlines of moments. A child's voice, a shared laugh, a warm porch at sunset, his brother's hand in his. Ethan's throat tightened. He stood perfectly still, letting the warmth move through him, letting the sensation of a forgotten bond surface in soft, delicate waves. Lyra watched silently, her expression tender with understanding. The sphere pulsed again, brighter this time, and Ethan heard something. A small voice, distant but clear enough to feel. It said his name. The sound echoed through the chamber like a gentle reminder of a promise he had once made. Ethan closed his eyes briefly, steadying himself. When he opened them, the sphere dimmed slightly, waiting. It wants the rest, Lyra said. The living echo cannot complete itself until every part of the memory is restored. Ethan looked down at his hand, still resting on the sphere's surface. And the missing part is behind this chamber? Yes, Lyra answered. The archive separated what was too painful from what was too important. Only when both halves are united will the truth return to you fully. Ethan let his hand fall away. The warmth lingered in his fingers. Like an imprint. He turned toward Lyra just as the soft footsteps resumed in the corridor behind her, slow and deliberate, drawing closer to the entrance. She angled her head slightly, sensing the presence. They are nearly here, she whispered. Ethan stepped back from the sphere and squared his shoulders, feeling the residual warmth settle deeper into his chest. Then I find the missing half, he said. And I finish what the archive started. Lyra moved to stand beside him. The glow from the sphere reflected in her silver-blue eyes. We finish it, she corrected gently. And as the presence beyond the doorway paused once more, the outpost hummed low and steady, as if bracing for the truth about to unfold. The presence beyond the doorway paused, as if deciding whether to enter. Ethan steadied his breath, the warmth from the memory sphere still lingering over his palm like the last touch of a fading dream. He felt the echo of his brother's voice settle deeper inside him, not clear enough to replay, but real enough to anchor him. Lyra positioned herself slightly behind him, close enough for him to sense her calm, steady presence. The chamber lights softened, responding to the shift in emotion rather than the movement. Ethan, Lyra whispered, her tone gentle. The missing half of your memory lies beyond this room. You must be the one to seek it. The archive will open the path only for you. Before he could answer, the figure finally stepped into view at the doorway. A human woman in a dark environmental suit stood there, helmet lifted just enough for him to see her face. She looked to be in her 40s, with sharp eyes and a calm expression. She raised both hands slowly in a gesture of peace. Ethan Cole, she said, her voice steady and professional. I am Dr. Mara Lorne. I worked on this archive decades ago. Ethan felt a jolt of recognition, not from memory, but from the cadence of her tone. A tone that belonged to someone used to giving explanations no one wanted to hear. You knew my family, he said quietly. Yes, Mara answered. And your brother. And you. Lyra took a subtle step closer to Ethan, but said nothing. Mara's gaze softened. There was no ill intent, she said. Your memories were partially removed because you witnessed something your mind was not ready to keep. Ethan's jaw tightened. A fire. Mara nodded. But not the one you remember. The event was not an accident. Your brother was part of a study intended to help children retain memories through trauma. The archive was supposed to protect both of you. Ethan's breath caught. Protect us from what? Mara hesitated, her expression shifting. From loss, she said finally. From the kind that breaks a mind. The words landed gently, but heavily, like snow settling over an old wound. Ethan felt the room tilt slightly, though the floor did not move. Lyra spoke for the first time. You came to stop him from opening the full memory. Mara shook her head. No. I came to ensure he is not alone when he does. Ethan looked between the two women, the outpost lights flickering softly across their faces. If the archive holds the truth, he said, I want to see it. Mara gave him a small, sincere nod. Then it will reveal what you are ready to remember. The outpost hummed, a warm pulse moving through the walls. A new doorway formed in the chamber's curved surface, opening not with machinery, but with the fluid ripple of light. Ethan stepped toward it, heart steady now, no longer racing. Lyra moved to his side. Mara followed behind them. Beyond the doorway was a small, quiet space, empty except for a pedestal holding a single object. A small metal key identical to the one he carried, but worn in a different pattern, as if it had been held by another pair of hands for many years. Ethan reached out and touched it. The moment his fingers met the surface, the room filled with a soft, warm glow. A memory unfolded around him, gentle as sunlight through a window. He saw himself as a child, sitting beside his younger brother on their porch. The boy laughed, holding up the second key, promising they would open a new room in their house together when they grew older. Ethan felt the memory settle into him, whole and clear, without pain. Just love. The pedestal dimmed. The glow faded. And Ethan opened his eyes with a quiet, steady breath. Lyra watched him with warmth. Mara with relief. He held both keys now, one in each hand, their shapes aligning once more. For the first time, the weight felt right. Not heavy, not broken. Whole. The outpost lights dimmed, returning to their soft, resting glow. No words were needed. Ethan stepped out of the chamber, carrying both keys at his side, and the outpost hummed a final gentle note, as if closing the last page of a story that had waited years for its ending.